Yeah? When were you born?
I am born on June 18th, 1898.
Yeah. And can you tell us anything about your parents?
My parents were born in the same town. My mother was born on May 10th, 1866, and my father was born on March 6th, 1867.
And what were their names?
My mother's name was Adele, and my father's name was Louis.
And what was your mother's maiden name?
My mother's maiden name was Meyer.
Okay. Can you tell us anything about your childhood that you remember?
My childhood,
Where you went to school, your friends?
I went to kindergarten in the cloisters of our town, where nuns took care of my early life. At 6 years, I came into the elementary school, which was not far away from our house.
What did you learn there? What kind of things did they teach you?
They taught me German in particular, and history, and
Spelling?
spelling, counting. It was a school, a Protestant elementary school. I changed in 3 rooms. The first room, where it was the beginning, they were in one house. In the second and third one were in the same house on the second floor. Then in the later years, we came in a new building where we stayed for the rest of the school years. I think when we reached, it was almost 4 years. I was 6 or 7 years old. My parents had a small butcher store, and I had to bring meat away in the morning before school time, walking half hour to an hour, and had to be back in school till 8 o'clock. Sometimes later on I did it by bike, and we had our town was very hilly, so on the way there I have to push the bike, and on the way back it went very fast because it went downward, down the hill. So on Saturdays was the main business day, and I had a few routes with 10 customers each, which I supplied with meat as they ordered it in advance. It was a town where many farmers lived, and there was a time when they started killing their own hogs, that they didn't need supply from us for 3 or 4 weeks. But on time when they were killing the hogs. They had a man who took that they had a man who took care of the slaughtering these animals, and he put it in parts, and he made all kind of known put the hog apart and made it ready for eating by pickling it or by and they even made bologna out of it. And for that part, we delivered a great piece of beef, which he mixed into the pig's meat for making that bologna. Also, parts of it were pickled and smoked, and they were set for having their own supply for weeks and weeks. So that cut part of our business. After school time, after 3 o'clock, I played with other boys and girls on the street. We had all kind of games. And sometimes it was pleasant, sometimes it was not pleasant. And sometimes they even let me feel that I'm Jewish. And when I won and was ahead of the game, I heard a voice saying Jews. So
your religious training.
my parents were very good Jews, and for the high holidays we had to go in the nearby town. His name was Gerresheim. They had a synagogue there, and especially on the high holidays, we never took a train. We walked there. It was a walk on over an hour. And with the Jewish people in the next town, Gerresheim, we were invited, and we were for lunch after the synagogue, and we had nice cake and bread and coffee, and after we talked together, maybe 2 hours later, we went home again. And our mother and our aunt, they had a full meal ready. And it was you could see that a Jew came from the synagogue by wearing a silk hat. And my father wore a silk hat too. And we escorted him home, and that was our holiday.
Who was with you? Who went with you to Gerresheim, besides you and your father?
And sometimes my mother and my aunt went with us. So it was always 2 hours walk, 1 hour there and 1 hour back. So we were we were tired when we came back. But anyhow, it was very pleasant to remember that we were Jews and celebrate our holidays and were nice greeted by our Jewish friends in Gerresheim. So,
did you have any Jewish friends in the town where you lived?
Unfortunately, we had only 2 families, other Jewish families in our town.
What was the name of the town?
Erkrath. It is very near to Düsseldorf.
About how far?
An hour and a half. I have an hour more than to go to synagogue in Gerresheim. So
What did you do with your brothers? How did you get along with your brothers?
I didn't mention that I had two brothers. One brother was older than I am, and one brother was younger than I am.
How much older?
My older brother was born in 1896.
What was his name?
His name was Max, and the younger brother was born
1901.
1901, and his name was Walter. They accompanied us naturally to the temple too. We all had to go, and it was an Orthodox temple. It was a temple where the ladies were sitting separate, and it was in a very Orthodox religious manner. So mostly it was Monday. We had an hour or two religious education in Gerresheim, where a Jewish teacher came from Düsseldorf and educated us, prepared us for holidays and told us about the Jewish culture.
Children in the school too?
Yeah, from the other two families, one family had 4 or 5 children, and 2 of them they walked with us to Gerresheim to the religious school too, and we took the train there and came by train back. It's only one stop from one town to the others, and my mother's sister, we call her Tante Bertha. She was always with us and called our second mother. She took care of us from the morning to the evening. So when I had to go to school in the morning after 8, and we came back after 3. And I was always a good student. And when my brother Max graduated from school, he went to a town in the Ruhr area where he learned the trade from he came in the Ruhr area to a store where they learned him the trade in the department stores. And he sometimes came home on the weekend, Sundays, and he had to be in his store again on Mondays. It was only a short vacation. When I became 13, I was prepared for my bar mitzvah, and I had to go to the city of Düsseldorf, where I was instructed by a Hebrew teacher who was specialized only in preparing young boys for the bar mitzvah. So it was in the beginning of the year, let me say on February, March, and my bar mitzvah came up in June on the 18th. I never forget the name of my settler. The settler's name was Shelach Lacho. And on the Saturday, on the Shabbos when I was bar mitzvah, all the family came, and we had our store, our butcher store, where we had a big but was all covered in white with white linen, and on both sides we had chairs. I remember that very, very good. And then the whole family came. They brought me gifts of all kinds, pens and all kinds, but if, no money. So we had a good meal, and I had an uncle in Falmouth, Uncle Hugo. He had a Köchin and a cookfrau. He came already 2 days before and prepared all the meals. And I can tell you, there was no shortage, and everybody had a good time. So after the bar mitzvah, I had to go to school as usual, and with 14 years, a year later, I graduated from elementary school, and my teacher in my 8th year, he came to our parents and asked that I go for higher study. And my father said, I need a boy in business, and I can afford to send him to higher education, which I miss today very, very much. So I stayed for 1 year with my father in the butcher business, and then I found somebody in the provision business in Dinslaken, Mr. Starr. He took me in as an apprentice to learn bologna making and everything that is connected with it. So in that year, the war broke out. And
Which war?
the First World War. And my Mr. Shaw had a lot of business with the nearby garrison. And he had delivery to the army kitchen with all kinds of bologna and what is together with it. But my Mr. Shaw lost all, and all the help was taken in the army. So my Mr. Shaw gave me small instructions for to do it myself, but the other ones did after they were already trained for years and years. And everything worked wonderful. Even everybody was amazed how I could do it. So anyhow, shortly after, in June or July, my year was off. My Mr. Shaw called my father and begged him to leave me there for some time because he has no help and he needs me very badly. So my father didn't agree to it. He said he needs me badly too. And after that year wore off, I went back to my own home, to mother and father, and we started already making bologna on a small scale. We had only grinders by hand, and well, but anyhow, the product was very much liked and gave me an incentive to start a business on a bigger scale. So my father started building a bigger place on our building where we took modern machinery from time to time.
What year was this?
It was in the year of
Before you were married?
no, before I was married. Time was shortly after the war. And we had customers in every city in the Rhine province and also Westphalia.
How old were you when you expanded the business?
I was 25 years old. And it was, we had already 10 employees, and we did a tremendous business in the provision line. So one day I was introduced to my wife.
Who introduced you?
A cousin of hers, Mrs. Nathan. And a short while later, we agreed on to marry. And it was a very successful marriage because I became a very lovely wife. In the beginning,
Where's Mom?
we had a big engagement party in my wife's hometown, Rittberg, where all family was invited, and my mother-in-law, she was a great cook, and she prepared a big meal for our engagement party. And shortly after that, that was maybe in February or March, and we agreed on that we will have our marriage on May 27th. That was in 1928. And we had our big wedding party in Lippstadt in a place called Lippstadter Hof.
Who married you? Do you remember that?
Yeah. And there was a rabbi, a teacher, a Hebrew teacher, who married us. And the word Lee was heard from the hotel to the railroad station. So anyhow, we made a honeymoon to Paris with a stop in Cologne, where we got the express train to Paris.
How long were you in Paris?
A week. We were a week in Paris, and when we came back to Düsseldorf after a week on the railroad station outside waited for us my wife's sister and the chauffeur with our automobile, which we had installed in the meantime.
Was that your first car?
First car.
What kind of a car was it?
Renault. So we all drove to Erkrath, where everybody was happy to see us back.
How'd you learn how to drive?
The chauffeur.
Oh, you didn't
Chauffeur.
drive.
No. Yeah, I drove too.
Who taught you how to drive?
What? One of our chauffeurs. He taught me how to drive on one of our cars. Last night, I belonged to Gesangverein.
Like an association?
No. And in the middle of the night, after we came back from Paris, they gave us an ovation. They sung verschiedene songs, woke us up during the night, and on the following evening, I have to give them an evening in a restaurant. An evening with drinks. Okay? So then, after that, I have to go back to business, and the business flourished, and we have to make changes on our house, because till that time we had only outhouses, and I built a part in one room in our apartment house, where I built a real bathroom with toilet and everything for my parents. We are developing in every way, from our apartment where we lived in and got our daughter, where our daughter Rose was born. We bought a house where we lived to the time when we went to America, and a big house which we occupied ourselves, and that I never can forget. They had a big garden with fruit trees, and we did also gardening where we, yeah. So
and not a new house.
Yeah, tell us about
We
it.
bought a beautiful house with many rooms in there, and a large garden with a lot of apple trees and cherry trees and flowers. We made it out beautiful.
Was it a modern house?
Yeah, very modern house, but was all very good built. We had it decorated from a aunt of ours who had a connection with business, who has antique stores. And she went with us buying furniture and helped us making the drapes and jalousie, or whatever they call it. And the Werner, or now Rani, was born at that time, soon after that. And we had a maid for the house, as housekeeper and cook, and one nurse for take care of the children.
And what did you do?
To that time already, I went to the factory and helped in the office.
So as what? As a bookkeeper, you mean?
No, just helping all
Yeah,
around. Bookkeep all around. We had a girl there, bookkeeper there, but they needed some help. And after Hitler came, did you ever tell that now?
Yeah.
You know, after after Hitler came, the first day we bought us bicycles and went home from our house to the factory by bicycle, not to say hello to our,
coming into it.
not to come in touch with all the other people, and they wouldn't have to say hello to us.
What year was that?
1933.
Uh-huh. And you
Wasn't it 33?
Maybe 34.
No, 33. Right away.
before that